So being real ministry, being real group, what is it? Short as I can tell you, basically it's a group of people getting together, being earnest with each other, talking about their struggles, picking things that they have a hard time understanding or they struggle with, and having the group discuss it. Each week we pick a topic. It's a topic that is voted on by the group for the following week. You study and you come prepared to discuss. We discuss things. We go to scripture, and then we come up with action items. That's what we do. It was born from a need for this, from talking to people, listening to God, just a need for people to be able to have earnest conversations, and say, I don't know what this means, or, this is a struggle, or, with what's going on in the world, let's talk about the end times. Whatever it is, again, topics, everything is group driven. I don't go in there with a plan. I don't go in there with a lesson plan, I should say. There's a little bit of a plan. I try to be as prepared as possible for pretty much anything. That's what it is. I'm a facilitator of the group, and I'm just saying that. I'm not a teacher of the group. I don't speak at people. The group works through problems together, and that's really what it is. It's about putting something out there, talking about it, having the different perspectives from different people, different walks of life, different religions, different whatever. But earnestly trying to figure out or seek what it is that'll help us with that issue. We go to scripture. We look at scripture all the time, but it's not a Bible study. That's not what it is. It's here's what we're dealing with. Okay, now how do we go find that information? It's like life lessons. I don't know how else to say it, but it's a life study. I had a pastor show up at a couple of them, and walked away with, that's not a Bible study. What you're doing is like a life study. And that's the point. Like, if scripture can't help us day to day in life, are we reading it properly? Are we going to it in the way that we should? And I'm not saying I read it properly, by the way. Don't misunderstand that. But if we're truly abiding, if we're trying to follow and live the way we're to live, pretty much everything we encounter in life, we should have a foundation in scripture or guidance from God and scripture with how we handle that. And that's really what this is. It's an intertwining of scripture, things that we've learned, the connectivity to God, and how to do that daily, how to live that way daily. And we all struggle with that. And it's more about finding how we can go find answers. It's about discovering how we can go get answers. It's about having different perspectives in the room. It's not about coming up with the answer or having somebody tell you what the answer is. That's not what the group is. And everybody can take away from that group whatever they're going to take away as we meet for different topics. And it's been interesting because I've had conversations with people in the group days later or weeks later, and what connected with them, I don't even remember what said at the group. And that's kind of how it works, and that's the point. We're getting together. You don't know what's going to connect and what's not. So there's not really a plan. It's more of a, hey, let's work through this. Like, what do you think? Okay, what scripture is that? Let's go look at that. Now, why is it said a certain way? And sometimes it's like a Bible study because there's a need for that to explain what that verse means and to have the context of it. Other times it's not that way. It's more discussion. And we just kind of roll with whatever comes and try to meet people where they're at. Also, try to own what's ours. Try to understand how to connect with people better in a different way. And that's what it is. So it's just people getting together, talking about things earnestly, throwing out real struggles, working through them together, seeing what we come up with. And hopefully that makes sense. It's very hard to describe something that's different every week. And being real is different every week. How the group is facilitated is different every week. There have been times when I've mentioned this in the group, where I've studied stuff for 10 to 12 hours, and maybe a minute of that was touched on at the group. But if I go with a lesson and this is what we want to, then I am not allowing people to share where they're at. I'm not responding or empathizing with them. I'm just getting my point across. And I've learned a ton from others. And as I've talked to people, it has shocked me at how isolated we are. So the group fills a lot of needs. Gets us connected, gets us talking about things, helps us to work through, helps us understand how to go to Scripture and get the real life application of things. And challenges. There are challenges. We have faith and action items that challenge us to do those things. And you're going to get what you put in. But I know there have been a number of people, and of course myself included, have learned a lot and have made changes according to what we discussed. Because maybe this person said something that I'm like, ooh, never thought of it that way. Or we went to Scripture and we read a verse that I had never seen or I had passed through. And there's a lot of times that happens where somebody's like, I've read that, but that didn't mean that when I read it. And it was because maybe we read the verse and we didn't get the context of it. So there's always something to learn. And I've never left there not learning something. But that's what being real is. So you're on the Being Real page. If you're not, go to 122.us. Go to the Being Real ministry. I don't know what else to call it, so I call it a ministry. If you're not there, if you are there, check out the different topics. We started this as, again, didn't have a plan. We kind of just adapted as we went. And we started out with just week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Converted that to they were always topics, but converted that here on 122.us to topics. So you can look at the topics. Sometimes the topics, we had a couple different meetings that we talked about those topics. If you go to that topic, you'll see the summary for those meetings. We're going to continue to put information out there. We're going to go back through and do a follow-up on some of these. And as we come across resources that might help, those will go into those topics as well. But the Being Real summary is the group discussion. And that's what it is. And when it's a summary, the summary is just what that group discussed at the time. It's not a lesson or any of that stuff. It's more just summarizing the scriptures that we went through and the discussions that we had and what we came up with. And that might start all kinds of things from there. And, it's not saying that we were right or wrong or whatever. It's just what we talked about. Each time try to represent the mood of the group and also the content. There are a couple where, I ranted a bit on video because that's what happened in the room. So there's summaries of what happened in the room. And just remember that. And it's meant to give you information about kind of how that topic went and what the different points were. Hopefully somebody else looks at those and says, oh, that's interesting. Hey, maybe I could talk about those specific things, or I had this, and this. Could we talk about that? So that's really what it is. Just remember, being real, summaries, summarize what was discussed in the group. So anyway, this is supposed to be a 2-minute thing, longer, but just wanted to give you a little bit of a feel for what being real is, how we've gone about it. Maybe it spurs something for you to talk to people in a different way. That's what it is. Thanks for watching. Be real.